What's up, guys? Welcome to the Behind the Golf Brand podcast. This week, I have my friend Hally Leadbetter, better known as the ultimate producer and content creator and interviewer. I mean, she's done it all, and her last name, everybody kind of knows where that is too. So that's pretty cool. She's a lot of cool new projects happening, and I'm really excited to have her on the show. So welcome to the show.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
So where are you right now?
I'm currently in Florida. Came to visit my parents for a couple weeks. I live in Los Angeles now, but I'm from Florida, born and bred. So always nice to come back here for parts of the Florida swing. We had Bay Hill last week. We got the Players this week. So we'll be heading over there in a couple hours to see if Scotty can go for a three-peat.
Oh, that's cool. I mean, so how far is that from where you're at right now?
It's not close. It's not close at all. I am on the west coast of Florida currently, and I need to drive to the east coast of Florida. So it'll take me about 4 hours this evening, but I'll pop on a couple Behind the Golf Brand podcasts and I'll be there before
Whatever.
I know it, right?
Or not. Or not. If you want to fall asleep at the wheel, you could do that. But
No. Keep me energized, motivated, inspired.
so are you going to just watch? Or are you doing this to make content? Or are you doing content with what's the purpose?
What's
You know
the
what I mean?
purpose of me making the 4-hour drive? Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I work with Nike. Shout out Nike, as you can see on my shirt here. And they have really been trying to make a big push back into the golf space. I really don't think we'll see the uh, the totality of that until next year, but really starting to do that now. And that looks like a really big presence in the fan shop at PGA Tour events, some really unique drops, which they've always kind of done. That's kind of been their thing, and they've
Yeah.
always been good at that. So continuing to do that. So I'm going there to meet with their team, create some content around what they've got going on there, and just kind of it's a great place for the golf industry, kind of comes together, hangs out at the Players. Obviously, this happens at the Masters, the majors, WM. It's kind of like a traveling circus. And so going to a PGA Tour event, you can get a lot done because you'll see a lot of the people. I mean, the golf industry is so small. So just going to do some stuff with Nike, and then got a couple meetings with just some people that are going to be there. So yeah, excited to check it out. I
You're
haven't
gonna
been
walk it
to
too? Or are you
so
just gonna be
uh,
like meeting?
absolutely not. No.
No, fuck that.
No, I don't really. It's so funny. I do think I kind of take it for granted, if I'm completely honest. I should set aside some time to go watch some golf. No, because it is cool. It is a really cool experience. But it's like anything, you go a couple times and you're like, oh, a golf tournament, it's a golf tournament. But it is really awesome to watch the best players in the world, especially when they're playing a venue like that. So you know what? Maybe I will try to set aside some time to go actually watch some golf, especially at least walk out to 17 and see if how many water balls there are on that hole this year, because there's always a lot.
That's like the best part, right? I mean, it's like every hole has its
Exactly.
thing. That's
Absolutely.
awesome. I'm trying to catch
Yeah.
them. Um,
Yeah.
I didn't even know Nike was trying to come back. I mean, that makes sense. Like, what year did they leave the space? What was that? Like 2000?
I think they had never really left the space. I think just more like figuratively speaking, you could say they left, and that they weren't putting a ton of attention on the golf
Yeah,
space.
like the
Um,
clubs and the balls and
Yeah, they obviously, steered away from equipment, stayed in apparel and footwear. But
for
ultimately, they
sure.
hadn't been at the PGA show in 9 years, came back
Oh
to
my
that
gosh.
this year, which is exciting. And then, yeah, I think we're going to be seeing a lot of awesome stuff from them, especially starting next year. So excited to be a part of
That's
it
super
and
cool.
to, help them with some of their storytelling around that too.
Well, you are the master storyteller. I mean,
I try.
I wish I had like a little bit. Like you're like seriously, kind of like the OG storyteller of like people. I mean, what year did you start doing content? You know what I'm saying? What year was that?
Let's see. So I graduated college in 2016 from Rollins College, which is in Florida. And ultimately, I turned professional, played professional for like 3 months. And then I was like, never mind, just kidding. Because I always knew that I wanted to get into the media side of things. And so I guess you could kind of say that I started my first real job was as a social media coordinator at Golf Digest in 2017. And so from there, I really developed a strong sense of like what worked on various social channels. Well, at the time, thank God we didn't have TikTok. I always really feel for social media managers whenever they announce like a new platform and everyone's like, oh my God, it's so cool. And I'm like, every social media manager is like, oh my God, another one that I just have to keep track of and try to build an audience for. So I think that was kind of when I started, probably 2017. And for me that just looked like raising my hand and volunteering to go drive to New Jersey and interview people at a Top Golf or go over to Liberty National my day off for the President's Cup Media Day and shadow people. And so I think that's kind of when it would started. I definitely wasn't getting like paid to storytell. I was getting paid
Yeah.
to do social media, but I think it was kind of like a nice combination because ultimately I'd say the majority of my storytelling is via social media. So I think having a really good understanding of that from the start of my career was really or has been helpful.
Like, what do you think prompted you to do that though? Like, because your dad's an instructor. I know you've been in the golf world forever, but like what, like that's a whole another leap. I feel like you even have that ability just to talk to people normally. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, my dad is very good at talking. I mean, through the hundreds of thousands of I don't know how many clinics he taught over the years, and I
For
think what he's
sure.
really good at too is like meeting people where they're at. He always says that like really good golf instructors can say the same thing multiple different ways. He always uses the example of like when he would teach Nick Faldo, he would say something one way and it just wouldn't be clicking for him. And then he would say it a different way. And Nick would be like, oh, that makes sense. And what he said, he was essentially saying the same thing, but whatever, so I think for me, that's something that I try to take into my job is that kind of just like meeting people where they're at. I think a lot of times, you're talking to people that maybe they're professional golfers, maybe they've never been interviewed before, and for people that have never been interviewed before, I always try to pull them aside and say, hey, listen, like I got you. Everything's going to be fine. I did a lot of, when I lived in New York City for a while, I did a lot of improv classes, which was really fun. And I think great for anybody that's in media because it kind of just keeps you on your toes and you're just having to be a really great listener and always yes and. So for me, I think that's something I really try to do is to really connect with the person that I'm talking to and figure out like where they're coming from and how I can make them feel comfortable. Um, but yeah, I think my dad's always been really good at that, just in like a different way, just doing something different, helping them with their golf swings, and I'm interviewing people.
So, like, did you grow up in Florida then? Because wasn't your dad's like places all over the place? Like, I know he did Texas and there's a couple other places too, but was
Yeah,
your
I think there's like 30 something Leadbetter academies around the world, but the main one, the headquarters, if you will, has always been in Orlando, and that's where I grew up.
okay.
But then for high school, my brother and I went to a sports academy called IMG Academy, which at the time was also a Leadbetter academy. So we moved down to where I currently am now, which is Sarasota, Florida. And so yeah, so always really been a Florida gal until I went to college. You went to University of Arkansas for 2 years, then transferred to Rollins, and then I lived in New York City for a while. And yeah, now I'm out in California. But yeah, I always find myself back in Florida quite a bit, either for work or visiting the family.
What made you decide not to like continue professional golf? Like, you see it for a couple of months. Like, what made you? I mean, I've had a lot of different instructors on the show and guys that have been on the tour and whatever. But like, like what for you? What was like? You know what? This is probably not what I want to be doing.
I think it's ultimately like my heart just wasn't in it. I think, and if I'm completely honest, I think for a while I felt guilty about that as well. Like I really wanted to want to be a professional golfer, if that makes any sense, but I didn't. It's kind of like I would love to want to eat healthy, but I just don't. That's a bad analogy. I
Well,
do
you
like to
do
eat
on
healthy.
January
But
2nd.
yeah, no, no, if that makes basically like my
No,
heart
I
just
get it, I
wasn't
get
in it.
it, I get it.
Like
Yeah.
I found myself when the opportunity at Golf Digest opened up, when I found myself more excited about going to live in a one bedroom apartment with two other girls,
Right.
in a half a living room with my shower with my curtain like a my door is a shower curtain, when I was more excited about that than like staying in Florida, living with my parents and like grinding it out on the mini tours, which is what you should want to do if you're a professional golfer. And so it was ultimately just me being honest with myself and me being like, listen, I love golf, but I just don't know if like pursuing it for a living is the way that what I want to
Yeah,
do with my life,
yeah,
you
like, you
know?
wanna
So,
there's a lot of
and that was
sacrifice
hard.
too, right?
Oh
I
my
mean
God. And yeah, and I had the opportunity to play in the Hilton Grand Vacations the last 2 years, which is the first event on the LPGA schedule, and they have a celebrity field, and they let me play in it, which is very kind of them. But it's really fun
what?
because yeah, I know, it's wild, but it's actually where I grew up, the course that I grew up, Lake Nona, and I get to play
You, like,
alongside.
destroyed everybody?
I actually played quite well, actually, which was cool. But not, by no, like I got to play alongside the LPGA players, which a lot of them I grew up with, and even like was in the same like practice group when
Yeah.
I was at IMG. I grew up with the Cordas and Gemma Drybera and a lot of the girls out there. So it was real. It's always really fun to sort of see them reach their dreams, and then for me to get to play alongside them and interview them from time to time. It's pretty special.
That's cool, dude. So are you traveling all the time? Like, I
I
mean,
do. I travel quite a bit. I probably travel two and a half on average, probably 2.5 to 2.5 weeks out of the month. I'd say I'm on the road.
at tour events or any kind of golf
Really
related item?
everything. Yeah, any kind of golf thing, whether it's a shoot for Golf Digest. I do a lot of work for Golf Digest. That's where I used to be full time, and now I'm a contractor for them. But I host a show called On the Tee for them, where I play 3 holes with a celebrity, and we do a walk and talk interview. So I travel a lot for that. Travel a lot for tour events. Um, Still do a good amount of work for the PGA Tour. I got to host an NBC special for API a couple weeks ago. Yeah, so kind of got
You're
my hand in a
busy.
lot of different things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been traveling quite a bit as well for our new company, Better Content Co., which has been really fun to be able to launch. So yeah, kind of got a lot of like what is this phrase? A lot of irons in the fire, or what is it? What is the phrase? A
Yeah,
lot
you're
of
right.
what in the
That's what you
irons in the
said.
fire, I think, right? Yeah. Got a lot of irons in the fire. But it's fun. It's kind of how I like it. I've got pretty severe ADHD, like a lot of people. So I like to bounce around and focus on a couple, I get bored easily. So I like to jump around and focus on a lot of different things.
Yeah, you like, you have your brain engaged, right? Like, if you're not
Yeah.
engaged, you're just like, "Next." Yeah, like,
Yeah,
it's
exactly. Exactly.
yeah. Um, so what happened to your podcast? I thought you were gonna do a podcast, weren't you, a long time ago?
Oh yeah, so I've done I've done a couple podcasts now. I had a podcast with Michelle Wee. It was
I
called
remember
Golf
that.
Most.
I actually remember that.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really fun. It was called Golf Mostly. It was so much fun. We had so many great guests, but ultimately Michelle moved to Las Vegas. She now had her second baby. So it just went a little bit too
Life.
hard for us to,
Yeah.
yeah, life got in the way.
Right.
And then the most recent podcast I did called The Best Golf Podcast, which was an SEO play, I'm like, how are we gonna pop up when people type in the best like a best golf podcast? Like obviously you're gonna click on ours. So and that was really fun. I did that with my brother. And
Yeah, I remember that.
ultimately, another really, really fun project. We did that for about a year and a half, but we just started really falling in love with the process of doing sketch comedy. And ultimately, we found like the ROI on those were higher than the amount of time and energy and frankly like money we were putting into the podcast, so we sort of pivoted and started focusing on that.
So, when did you start Better Content Co?
I think we're about 2 months in, but Andrew Wantuck, who is my business partner, we have been friends slash working together, I think, almost 3.5 years now. I met him on the set of the Connor Moore show, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with Connor Moore. He's that guy that's like super amazing at impressions. Hasn't really been in the golf scene too much. Like right now, lately, he does a lot of like, F1 and all other kind of sports, soccer, but just an incredible impressionist and comedian. So he had a show with Golf Pass, and I had connected with Connor, and he asked if I wanted to come on the show and be in some sketches. So I went and did that with him, and ultimately met Andrew, and then got to do my own show for Golf Pass, which was really fun. And that's where, kind of my love for sketch comedy started. And then ultimately, Golf Pass started focusing more on just golf instruction. And I was like, well, I still really want to do this stuff. So Andrew and I kind of linked up and decided to keep producing sketches. And yeah, it's been really fun. We've got a bunch of other stuff going on. I mean, Andrew himself is a very talented commercial producer. So he produces all like the Golf Now commercials and Golf Pass commercials with the Blue Door and the Gopher. Just produced the Roy McIlroy Uncommon TGL documentary. So we've got a really talented group of comedians and writers and directors and cinematographers. So we do a lot of commercials, a lot of social content. And yeah, we love the sketch comedy stuff. So yeah, it's been really fun. We're only officially launched, I'd say about 6 weeks ago now. So we're still very new, but it's been really fun to see the response. People are excited about it. We've gotten a lot of people reaching out to see if we can help them in any way with their content. So it's been really fun.
I love it. I think it's cool because, and dude, you're
Thank
funny as hell.
you.
So it's like,
Oh, I
it's,
appreciate that.
it's almost like you could have been a comedian, honestly, because like the shit you do is
I don't
funny.
know. I'm not quick enough, I don't think, to be a comedian. I would love to be quick. I'm kind of like one of those people, when like you get in an argument
Yeah.
and then someone says something mean, and
And
then you think about what you would have said
then
like
you get really
5
mad.
minutes later, and you're like, "Oh, I wish I would have thought of that." Like, I feel like that's how I am with
Oh,
comedy.
that's
The funniest
you have a
person that I
filter.
know.
In other words, you have a filter because I don't do that. I just
I try to keep a level head, especially when I'm in an argument. But my brother is hilarious. My little brother, he's part of our sketch comedy writing group. Really talented improv guy and golf instructor, so knows the game very, very well. But yeah, I appreciate that. I try to be funny, but I try to also surround myself with other people that are funny, because I think it just, you know,
makes it
I
funnier.
very yeah, I very much think, if I have an idea that's kind of funny, I can go to the other people that are super funny, and then they can sort of elevate
Like
that,
people that are
and
funnier
vice
than
versa.
me, and then I'd be like, okay, now we can really blow this out.
Yeah, exactly. I just think from what I found over the years, especially from having had a full-time job at Golf Digest, and got to work with a really amazing team there, and I really felt that camaraderie and just the way that ideas came together when you were with a really talented creative group. And then when I became a freelancer, I was really missing that, because you are kind of just on your own island. And
Yeah,
so for
exactly. You're
me,
exactly on an island
yeah, so for
with a team.
me, yeah, having a team and like, working with Andrew and my brother, and I've got a really talented stand-up comedian named Forrest Shaw, another writer named Kate Scarpetta, Carly Chaikin, who was in Mr. Robot, so another one we work really closely with. We have this really talented group now that I feel like they're my team. So even though um, I may not see them every single day in an office, we do try to meet once a week over Zoom for an hour or two, and make sure that we're, on top of any writing assignments that we have or upcoming projects. So yeah, it's really fun to have that again, if you will, like this, like a team around me that are just really incredible and creative.
So you do have a lot going on, right? I mean, because you're doing
A
the
lot
other
going
golf.
on.
Not, I mean, a lot. Like, how do you manage all that? Because that's a lot. It's a lot of big things too. It's not like, oh, I'm doing this. It's like, no, they're all big projects. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I think for me, it's funny. I'm reading this book right now that I heard about on a podcast. It's called
What?
Essentialism. And it's about basically separating the vital few from the trivial many. Is so basically like going all in on the things that like you're really good at, or that you want to be really great at, and you may have to sacrifice some good opportunities for really great opportunities. So that's something that I'm like actively kind of going through right now, being like, okay, let's sift out, because you only have so much time in the day. And I think, and if I'm completely honest with myself, over the last couple of years, like I really, again, having been in this freelancer position, you do kind of have to
You know
say
what it's
yes to
like, yeah.
everything,
You have to say
So
yes to everything, and then you're, like, burned out because you're like, "Dude,"
for sure.
right?
And for me,
Yeah.
like I get sick, I don't sleep enough. And so I think for me, I'm kind of actively in this mode where I'm like, okay, let's figure out what we actually want to be really great at and not necessarily just like yes, yes, yes to every single thing
So you're
now.
just like
So
me, 'cause I mean, like, there's a my one of my business coaches was like, there's a book he had me read it. I just read it, like, 2 actually, you should download the audiobook, and then you're driving for 4 hours. I mean, it's
okay, what's it
called,
called?
uh, "10x is easier than 2x." And it's like,
Ooh,
it's
okay.
so good, dude. Oh my god. It like when you I mean, it's I like duh. Essentially what he's talking about is like it's the same thing you're saying, but in a different way. But then also like structuring your week and you like kind of like differently where like how actors structure their week. So it's like they have
Mm,
one really big day of production, right? But then they have like a rest day and then they have a like preparation day. Like you don't just try to
yeah.
do everything every day. And I don't know, like
Hmm.
but they're going. What's cool about the book is they're going through history of like all these people. Like every next move should be a 10x move. It shouldn't be a 2x move because like
Mm,
you're not going to go exponentially higher. So I was like, I don't know.
yeah.
That's a good book. I've
No,
been
I love that.
because I
That's
was kind
another
of
thing.
bored. And I was like, oh, this book's legit. Like this is cool.
Yeah, no, that's a great strategy. I'll definitely have to look into that book. It's so funny. I feel like I'm just staring at my dad's bookshelf right now with like all the bajillion books about golf. And it's like you ultimately got to find what works for you, right? And a lot of these people, whether it be golf instruction or the mental
Yeah,
side of golf or how to structure your week as an entrepreneur, or how to save your energy or like some of it
it's
is
hard.
like all yeah, it's super hard, but they're all kind of like saying similar things just in different ways, and kind of like what I was kind of calling back to what my dad said before. Like you just got to find what works for you and what resonates with you. So for me, this whole like essentialism book, I was just like, oh, that makes sense. That really makes sense for me. And I've read other books. I've read another book called One Thing, which is very similar to the essentialism, but I just couldn't like. I was like, I don't understand
It
what they're
didn't
saying. I
talk to
don't
you the
get it.
right same way. Like you,
Yeah,
yeah.
it didn't talk to me it was like, "Oh, what" I forgot exactly what it said. I think it said, like, "What's the one thing you need to focus on to make everything else irrelevant?" And I was like, "Well, not every there's not there can't make anything irrelevant. Like, those are things are also important," but the way that this essentialism book framed it was, "What's the one thing what's the one thing you can focus on that'll allow you to give your highest contribution?" And I was like, "Oh, that makes sense to me." Like, where can I make my highest contribution, to, I guess, the world, if you will, or like to my self-worth or happiness or health, or like what are the thing very small few things, or one or two things that you can really focus on and dial in to make the biggest impact, if you will. And that to me made more sense than what the other book was saying. But again, it's all the same shit, to be fair.
No,
Excuse me. I
really,
really
it is. You can swear. This is we're not
love so
we're on national television. Um, I mean, I think it's true because like you you can have so many irons in the fire, but then it's like, which iron do you like the best? And which iron I know everything's opportunity, right? Obviously, but then it's like, is this is this what you want to do? Right? Like at the end of the day. And it's like that's the hardest part, is saying no. I know everyone says like, it's a no is the easiest, hardest thing to say, but it always makes you feel so good, right? Because then it's like, I don't have to worry about that now. And
oh yeah,
yeah, like
for sure, for sure. It can be
especially when you're in
so
that
hard to
position, you're
say
jumping
no.
around so much, right? And you're like, oh, it's like, yeah. I mean, I
Yeah,
think that's so
definitely.
true.
For sure.
Sensualism, that's the book's called? What's it called?
Essentialism, yeah.
Who
Okay,
told you
so
about
I'm gonna read that book that you told me to read, and then you
I
read
will.
that book
I
that I
will.
told you to read.
Alright, trades. We're trading here.
Okay, perfect. Book club.
We should do a book club.
Book
It's
club.
but you're right, though. I don't think people understand that when they think it's not this is not easy, right? Any way, shape, or form. Especially it doesn't matter who you are, where you came from, what opportunities you've had. What doesn't matter that matters because at the end of the day, it's still about building on whatever you're trying to build if you're an entrepreneur or whatever. And like, how do you balance that, right? Like you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't think the term, like, entrepreneur didn't even really I never thought of myself like that until recently, but it
Really?
really is ki not really, I mean, I just never really felt like, for me, I always like, "Oh, yeah, I wanna be a host and a producer," but the idea of, like, starting my own like, in order to do those things, you are essentially starting your own business. I did not really put those 2 and 2 together, because you could have a regular full-time job as a host or a full-time job as a producer, doesn't necessarily mean you have to start your own company. So, but I've really enjoyed it. It's been really fun. I mean, has it been challenging at times? Yes, luckily, I just married a very nice man who is an entrepreneur and started his company, about 12 years ago. So he went through everything that I went through a while back. So I'm very lucky to have a nice husband who will, help me with a lot of stuff like what's a C corp and what's an S corp and do I have to file this with the state of
Oh, I hate that
California and
shit.
stuff like that.
I hate that
I hate
shit.
it. I hate it, but
California
you
make you
have to
file
do it.
everything.
Yeah, you have to do it. And that's something that I definitely didn't foresee as something that like is key as an entrepreneur. There's a lot of housekeeping that you have to do, but it can be really really rewarding to like build something of your own.
I mean, your dad's like the perfect example of that, right? Like, because I mean, that's he's probably I mean, he's the epitome of an entrepreneur, especially. I mean, just like to build a whole it wasn't the brand, it's like a complete empire, right? It's not like,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
I film some videos and I give lessons out on 18 after whatever. You know what I mean? Like your dad, like no one can really touch your dad, dude. Like your dad did a lot of shit.
He's done a lot. He's done, I mean, yeah, from the academies to the training aids to the videos to the yeah, he has done a lot. And he's been a great resource for me in terms of I think too, another thing that he did um very well is like build a solid team around him that had the answers to some of the things that he didn't have the answers
Yeah.
to.
That's hard.
And so it is hard. It is hard, especially
People
when you're like small still, like
they actually
you
give a
can't
shit too. Like it's not like, oh, there's an employee and they're collecting their paycheck. Like they actually give
Oh
a shit to
yeah.
the
Oh
overall
yeah.
like they understand like, hey, this is a small business and we're a team. Like you get to step
Right.
up or
And they need to buy in. I mean, I know like you were
yeah.
talking before, you've been kind of corresponding with Beth who works for me and she's our better content co-project manager and so she really keeps the train on the tracks and that has been like a big investment for us to have her but has been really great because ultimately being able to delegate things frees you up to kind of do what you need to do and then have that person really buy in on the mission and what you're trying to accomplish. That's been another thing too, I think as a business person that you have to figure out is like where can you delegate so you can, make the best use of your time.
So another book you should read. Like I just started reading this book too after that book. My mentor was telling me it's called Buy Back Your Time. That's another have you heard of that book? That book's a shit.
Ooh, no, I'm gonna
So
write that down
essentially, it's
too.
like it talks about like exactly that. Like there's like 4 stages of entrepreneurship, and like the first one is you're a solopreneur and you're doing everything, right? And then like you have a small team that might help you do those tasks. But then like the hardest part is like the next step, which is 2, which is like okay, hiring like your gatekeeper, right? Essentially, so
Mm,
that they're like managing your inbox or managing your stuff. Like essentially, like you just hire people to do the jobs that they're good at so that you can focus on what you're good at. And it's like,
mhm.
duh, but then you read that, you're like, oh, that's such a good idea, but like,
Yeah,
until somebody
yeah.
tells you that, like if your dad said that to me or my dad said that, I'm like, whatever, get out of here.
Yeah,
Um,
easier said than done for sure, but so, so important.
so that's their good book. I'm not Mr. Book Reader guy, but those are like
I know,
these are like
you're
the two
you're
books
full
I've
of
been
books.
like,
I'm writing all these
well,
down.
that's it. That's all the books I got. I gotta have I'll see what book have I read. Eat the Cat. That's a good
Eat the
book.
cat.
It's
I feel
a
like you
kid's
just made
book.
that
It's
up.
like
That's
a
not
little
a
kid's
book.
book. I'm trying to think.
Oh, okay.
It's like a rhyming book. I don't know. I don't read that many books. I don't have time. I just listen to books more than like, but it has
I
to be
love to
interesting.
listen to books.
that's just I'm lazy. I don't know. I can read, but I don't know. I don't like reading. I mean, I do, but I don't.
Yeah, I
Uh,
gotcha.
so like, what do you like the most? Like, if all the things you're working on, like, what generally excites you the most? Would you say?
Um,
Yeah.
I honestly think it's these 2 things, like, it's hosting, I really enjoy being in front of the camera, but it's also producing. I really like being a part of the process from start to finish. Maybe because I'm a little bit of a control freak, but also because I just really enjoy the creative process, even if I end up not being in front of the camera. I think that's honestly what kind of a big impetus for Better Content Co. was, "Hey, I've got a lot of ideas. Our team has a lot of ideas that may not necessarily involve me.
Yeah.
Let's put these to work. Let's help brands tell their stories in the golf space and get people to pay attention." So that's kind of, we saw that there was I guess a
The
hole in the
need.
marketplace for just different storytelling, and that we knew that we had this incredible resource of these amazing talented people in LA, like I mentioned before, the cinematographers, directors, actors, comedians, etc., that all happen to be really passionate about golf and jump at the opportunity to participate in golf.
That's
So for
cool.
me, again, I really enjoy hosting, but I almost enjoy the creative process more. I love writing with my team. I love, if we write a sketch, I don't happen to be in it, like, I'm fine. I just love that process of coming up with a concept, refining it, and then putting it out on the other side. Now, then you have to hope that people like it, but ultimately, the joy is found in the actual process as opposed to the dopamine hit that you get from the 20,000 likes or whatever, because that's very fleeting, even though it feels good in the moment.
You get 20,000 likes? Wow.
I mean, I don't know. I'm just talking
I mean,
about in general, like
I
whatever
never got
post may
20,000 likes.
potentially
I mean, my
may
mom might have
potentially
liked it
go viral,
20,000.
So
Have you ever had everything go viral before in your content? Like, what's the biggest piece of
yeah.
content you've ever made? Like, you
Oh, let's see.
with video,
Probably.
probably a reel, right? Or it has to be a video.
Oh, the biggest piece that we ever, probably this this like fake commercial that we shot for Callaway. Um, well, I'd say we didn't shoot it for Callaway. I asked them to send me a driver so I could do it. They did not like pay us to do this. Um, but let's see. That has about 10 million views.
Holy crap.
Yeah. So
On
that one did pretty
Instagram?
well. Yeah, that's just Instagram. Yeah. Not counting Twitter or YouTube Shorts or anything like that. So,
You should do like a behind the scene, like you might already have thought of this idea, like what it's like almost like not vlog style, but you do so much cool shit. Like if you had a YouTube channel showing like that world, right? That'd be fucking cool.
yeah,
Like
I've
a
thought
walk.
about it. YouTube is so interesting. I have a lot of friends that are really big in the YouTube space.
Mhm.
I don't really have any desire to be a YouTuber. But what really irks me is when I do have content that is longer than 90 seconds, and then it just kind of because Instagram is not built for that. So I have literally just like as recently as yesterday been like, you know what, maybe I should start posting some stuff on YouTube. If not, just like finding, take out some of the smaller pieces, put them on Instagram, chop it up for Instagram, but put out the longer version on YouTube. And if I don't, I mean, at least it's a place where it can live. Doesn't necessarily, I'm not trying to get like hundreds of thousands of YouTube followers necessarily, but at least then it has a home. And then you can have the
That's the
original,
hard
have
part,
the,
right? On short form, it's just like you're screwed. Like essentially, if it's too long, then you have to start chopping it, and then it kind of loses its power. You know what I mean? Like if
yeah,
you're trying
yeah, yeah, yeah.
to, yeah, I don't know, I think it'd be kind of cool. You could like show what it's like. You have so many cool things happening in your day. It's like, I mean, maybe not everything, but I don't know. That would just be like
Everything. Come with me to get my,
driving to
yeah,
well,
watered down coffee.
driving to 4 hours across the state of Florida.
Yeah, I don't think that would be interesting for anybody,
It'd
but
be
I mean,
funny
maybe.
though. You can make a story about it.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true.
So do you still play a lot of golf? Like, are you still like how much golf do you play a month, would you say really? Like
It
1
really
round?
ranges.
2?
It honestly really changes. I mean,
But
like
you're in the golf
in
industry. You
Jan
should be playing golf all the time. Don't you hear
Oh, yeah, that's
that?
what everybody says, right?
I
Yeah.
know that. You're like,
Uh,
no, I'm working."
yeah, I'd say in January, I probably played 9, 10 rounds. In February, I
Wow.
think I played 1. This month, I'll probably play 0. It just depends on, like,
Yeah.
what's going on.
Are you scratch? You play better than scratch, huh?
I am a +2.
Wow. I
Yeah,
wish I could be a
yeah.
+2. I'm a 15. Like,
Hey, that's not bad. Golf is hard, man. Golf is a hard game.
one of the hardest sport ever. I feel
It's
like it
very
is.
hard.
Who's the coolest
Definitely.
person you ever interviewed?
Oh, man.
I'll give you
Oh,
I'll give
man.
you top 3. Let's make it so it's
Okay,
easier.
top 3, top 3. Okay. Andrew Santino, Tom Holland,
Really?
DJ Khaled.
Really? Holy shit. You
Yeah.
did good interviews. You should get Paul Laboratory on that list, but no,
Yeah,
the
and
show's
Paul
done.
Laboratory,
No,
there you
no, 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 you
go.
do that. What made them the most memorable? Is 'cause you were like, you like their music or you like their movies or they're just cool dudes?
Andrew Santino is super cool dude. I think he's awesome. Like, he's just a genuinely hilarious person, which, I mean, obviously, he's a comedian, so that's to be expected. Tom Holland, I think for just being such a big movie star was just so nice, and I really appreciated like, when I was interviewing him, I don't wanna say I really appreciated because it actually made my job a little bit more difficult, but I guess it was just, like, a nice insisted on, like, asking me questions back, and I was like, "Stop asking me questions." Like, I was
Like
like,
a real
"I'm the be asking you
conversation, like
questions."
being a normal
But yeah,
person?
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it was nice. I'm like, "Wow," I just felt like an actual connection with him, like, "Oh, this
You're like,
person, like,
"Damn, you messed this
genuinely
up for me,
interested in
bro."
me, like, what a cool guy." And then DJ Khaled is just, like,
Badass.
such a I don't even know how to describe him, like, such a unique person. It's like I remember the first time I played golf with him, I was just it was almost like you're listening to a song because 'cause you're so used to the voice in the
Yeah, I hear the
song,
voice.
but, like, you're like, "No, that's his voice, like, that's his voice." And that's how he talks, and, he always when I got to play golf with him a second time with, like, no cameras, and he's always be like, "You gotta build Hally Enterprises." And I'm
You
like,
should.
"Alright, yeah, that's what I'm trying to do, Paul. It's what I'm trying to do." So,
Hallie as you
gonna
should
take
call
his
your YouTube
advice.
channel, Hallie Enterprises.
Hally
And then,
Enterprises?
like, then the intro song be like, "DJ Khaled." And
Yeah,
then he starts doing a little rap for you. So that'd be pretty
yeah, I
you
actually
could
got
do
him
really good on
to,
YouTube, seriously, because you get the longer form, like, even I don't know, I'm not trying to do, but I think you'd be good for advertising,
yeah,
honestly.
maybe. Yeah, maybe I'll have to
Like, you need
work
my
it into
advice,
the
but
no, work it into maybe the Q3 strategy here.
you could also do an S corp and a C corp, and, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
I can put
yeah,
that in,
all the corps, all the corps.
lots of corps.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah. I hate that stuff, it's so boring. So I used to be a
So
lawyer
boring.
in my past life,
Okay.
and, like, I used to do all that shit, and it was terrible. There'd be days I'd be like,
Yeah.
"Why? I don't understand this. Like, let me just hire a
Yeah.
CPA," like, whatever. I mean, I knew what it
Yeah,
was.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
because it just talks about talking about delegating. That's what I
There
did,
you
hired a
go.
CPA.
Hire a CPA 'cause I hate taxes. I hate no I mean, I don't like whatever. So, when's the last time you played golf with your dad?
Ooh, I haven't played golf with my dad in a while, but, he has a bad foot right now, so he can't, like, play,
Oh, I can't
which is a
yeah.
bummer, but have gotten a lesson with him, like, in January, I
Really?
got a lesson, which was the
Oh,
last time I
good.
saw him besides now, so, yeah, I always whenever I see my dad, I try to get a little tune up, we'll do some putting, some chipping,
Tune up.
a little full swing, yeah, little tune up,
I was
so
gonna have
yeah.
your dad on my podcast, like, a year ago, but he was traveling a lot,
Yeah,
and I was like
he's a busy dude.
I was like, yeah, I was like working with this team. a bunch of ladies.
Nice.
I don't remember who it was.
Okay. Yeah, probably.
Um,
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
I don't remember what it was, but it was like last Christmas around that time, and I think he was going to like
Okay.
Scotland or something. He was traveling. It was
Okay,
like
got it.
this
Very
is the
cool.
window.
Yeah.
So this year, then, what is your biggest goal this year? Would you say?
Ooh, my biggest goal this year is to continue to scale Better Content Co., build up that client roster. I'm gonna be launching a new project with Golf Digest that I
Mhm.
am
Cool.
excited about, so really hone in on that. Got another project that I'm not really allowed to talk about that'll be announced here in a couple weeks,
Wow.
with a little place. Don't cut this for social, okay, or else I'll get in trouble, but it'll be something around that, tournament in Georgia, so,
That's cool.
excited for that,
That's cool.
and, yeah, so, excited.
Don't use that word because we all
Don't
know what
use
happens.
that. Yeah, so, yeah, I got a lot of things in the hopper right now. I'm just, honestly, I think for me, in 2025, I'm also just trying to kind of like what I talked about with this essentialism book, like, really just find, like, some like, a little bit more sense of groundedness and being calm and focusing on, my couple things and really just dial in my
But
lane a
I
little bit
seriously
more.
hear you 1,000% on that. Like, but I don't know. It's like what do they call, like, 10,000 hours or whatever they always people
Yeah.
say and all that bullshit,
Mhm.
but it's true, right? If you just focus on, like, the one thing or the 2 whatever that is, and you get really, really, really good at it, right? But then if you're trying to
Mhm.
do, like, 15 things and it's like, well, you're half-assed at 15 things, you know?
Yeah, 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 exactly, exactly. So trying to full ass the things that I'm,
Full
you
ass.
know,
I'm
wanna
all about the
focus
full
on.
ass. I actually had that in a
Exactly.
conversation. Who was I talking to? I actually said that. I'm all about the full ass, dude. Like, I don't even know.
Yeah, for sure,
And I sound like
for
I'm
sure.
dumb, but full ass.
So, yeah, I'm excited about a couple different things here that'll be announced in a couple weeks, so it'll be fun.
Well, that's so cool. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on the show. Where can people find you?
Yeah, most of my stuff is on Instagram at Hally Led. Yeah, did just fire up the YouTube again, which is also at Hally Led, where I'll be putting some more long form stuff because I just don't have anywhere else to put it. And then yeah, our website is bettercontentco.com.
You guys should check that out. You can see some of the cuts they did, and it's actually really funny. And Hal, you should be
Thank
like,
you.
you should be like an actor, like a comedian actress, because like the facial expressions you're doing is like pretty freaking funny, dude. Like
Oh, I
you have it
appreciate
timed. I'm just
that.
saying that you have it timed right. Like it's like, holy
Thank
crap! Like
you.
I don't know.
Thank
I'm just
you.
saying.
I that's what again just surrounding myself with people that are really good at what they do. I mean, a lot of the people that are in those videos, like if you look at Men's Grow Room sketch, I mean, that's got the guy from if you ever watched the Liberty Mutual commercials with
Oh
Doug
yeah.
and Limu Emu, the general manager of the club in Men's Go Room, that's Doug. The girl next to me, who's the other paramedic, is Carly Chaikin, who was Darlene and Mr. Robot. So I seem to draft off of these like very good actors. So I myself am not that great. I just kind of try to take notes from them, and luckily they're very passionate about golf and down to play around sometimes, which is fun.
Oh, that's cool. Well, thank you again for being on the show. You guys have to check her out for social, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.